Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and yeah, good morning for some people, on the other side of the world, and well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever you're celebrating. As long as you got up today, it's a giant W. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Primetime Gaming. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and of course, we have an outstanding, stellar conversation happening. We're talking Fable. We're talking those Fable graphics. We're talking the Fable delay, which, by the way, we have some information that it should calm a lot of the excitement that's out there in regards to why it was delayed. Fine. We're also going to get into, thanks to several people in the gaming community who put out a laundry list of things that are going to be happening for Doom: The Dark Ages that releases, well, in a couple of months. Folks, I'm here to tell you, I think what you're seeing in front of us, we're covering Fable, we're covering Doom: The Dark Ages. I think what you're seeing and what you should get excited about is not only are these going to be amazing games that day and date are in Game Pass, I think both of these games have a real good shot at winning Game of the Year in the year that they're released. Now, I know people are going to be like, well, Boom, you're a little bit crazy for saying that because we only saw, a little bit of Fable. Folks, listen, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you can't get excited and even potentially add that hashtag Game of the Year 2026 to what you saw, you need to get better glasses than I'm wearing, folks, because that was impressive, but we'll get there in a second. We got to welcome back our brother, the prodigal son of conversation himself. Oh, one bad mother. It's great to have you here, brother. How you feeling?
Hey, what is up, Boom? It's been a minute. It's since I've had a chance to join you. Life is I've been juggling a lot
Busy.
of things lately. Yeah, it's just busy. Not bad, just really really busy. Not always available. Usually not available lately on these nights, but it just so happened that today was one of those nights, and I was planning. I was like, man, I'm just going to kick back and maybe I'm going to just take a nap today. That just shows you how old I'm getting. But you asked me to come on. I was like, man, it's been too long. So it's really good to see you again. And yeah, there's some interesting things to talk about, some exciting things. So nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us, folks. Again, we're talking Fable. It's the hottest conversation going on in gaming right now, and for good reason. Playground Games has cooked. They're going to be cooking a little bit extra because you know what? It seems, I mean, we've talked about this before, Kay Asante. Microsoft finds themselves in such a unique position where they literally have so many studios and more specifically, so many games from first party this year landing. And mind you, we haven't even gotten to the second half of 2025. I think we're going to be okay. We're eating good. You got Atomic Fall coming out. You got a bunch of these big AAA, third party games dropping into Game Pass day and day. 33 Immortals is going to be dropping in soon. That one looks phenomenal. Again, an indie game, but there's a lot to get excited. Kay, how you feeling, brother? Welcome back.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me as usual. Yeah, man. Actually, speaking of 33 Immortals, I actually really enjoyed my time with. I got a chance to play the beta of 33 Immortals, and every time I played it, I came away super excited. It is one of those things that you invite as many people as you can, and they all jump in up to 33 people, and you have a great time. So
Awesome.
I'm excited for that one. Yeah, but good to be here. Looking forward to having the conversation.
Well, listen, we're going to get right into it, folks. Rip the Band-Aid right off. OBM, we got to get into Fable.
Okay.
Again, what happened yesterday with Tina Amini and Craig Duncan, who of course is been promoted to the head of Xbox Game Studios. A lot of people kind of were broadside by that, but that was announced midway through 2024. So I knew about it. You knew about it. A lot of people knew about it, but it was done, in a way where they didn't make a big deal over it. And this is one of the first times we got a chance to see and watch him being interviewed by Tina Amini, who is one of the best additions to Xbox and their marketing in years. I mean, every time she has touched the show, you can tell that it's her and her team producing, and it's been rock solid. And yesterday was no different. I know, and again, we're going to get into some of the conversation regarding the delay, some of the conversation of why that delay actually happened. But overall, look, Playground Games is a developer that I think anyone that even mentions them could walk away with confidence, right? Now, we saw, we've been seeing for years now little snippets of gameplay for Fable, but yesterday we got a lot of gameplay. Now, there are some people trying to refute that, which I think is just ridiculous because that was gameplay, not in-game engine. Let's get your thoughts on what happened with with the delay, but I want to get your thoughts first on what you actually saw.
Yeah, I mean, well, what we actually saw was real pretty, and obviously at this point, we're not going to get a whole lot in terms of the game design or anything like that. Although I think we can probably make some assumptions, especially since not only has that studio the way that they really always give you something to do in their games, and that's kind of I think one of their one of the things that they do really well is always figuring out how to keep people engaged in the loop, right? I think part of what's going to make this thing stand out is going to be the exploration aspect, and the way it looks is going to play a lot into that. I go back to like when Peter Monalou, when he first started the development for Fable, which was called Project Eagle back in the day. And I don't know if anybody remembers that. I had the original Xbox magazine. I think it was the third issue with Project Eagle, and it had your main character on the front of it. And one of the things that he talked about in that was, a lot of the RPGs at the time were, which I liked, all those other RPGs. But one of the things that he wanted to do differently was to really diversify the color palette and make it really interesting, make the world extremely interesting, so that when you're moving through it, you actually want to see what's around the next corner. Now, obviously, he never delivered on a lot of his promises. I'm still waiting to step on an acorn and have a tree sprout up years later in the game. But that's what you saw there in some of those clips was, to me, capturing some of the spirit of what this game was about initially as an RPG, and that is really to have something that feels really majestic and colorful and interesting, and it definitely has its own style and I guess identity, and I think that from a visual standpoint, at least to me, it really captures that. Like from a modern age, if you're looking for taking what it used to be in Fable 1 and 2 specifically, and you're trying to bring that into modern visualizations, I think they're doing a really good job. Now, I am excited to see, the thing we don't know anything about from watching those videos is really the loop too much. They show you throwing some magic and doing a little bit of combat, but one of the things that I think we've now are learning with their studios is that there is a lot more focus on dynamic gameplay loops.
Yes.
So I'm actually expecting that in this, even though they've said nothing about it. They've not even given us any real hints. But one of the things that I heard about from a friend that know somebody at the company is, one of the things that Microsoft kind of they did pivot a few years back with their studios. I think initially they were trying to go, bigger, bolder, all this stuff, and then they really kind of changed the focus to like finding the fun. And if anybody remembers, that was kind of like the whole core of the original Halo. It's like let's figure out how to make this thing. Then it was 30 seconds of fun, but really the thing they've really focused on is like it's not about it's not always about just like how this thing shows, it's how this thing plays, and making sure that the loops are engaging and they feel dynamic, and giving player agency where it is. There is some games that are exceptions to that, like your Hellblades and your South of Midnights, which I think are more art house style, where the story and the surroundings are what really carries those. But I think on a lot of their bigger things, we saw it with Indiana Jones, I know Call of Duty was already in development beforehand, but even that was, you know, a little bit more dynamic in terms of how we played that compared to previous ones. And we've seen it now with Avowed. One of the things that's standing out to me going through that as somebody who beat Outer Worlds and, you know, that deal and at least one of the DLCs was that, you know, how many different ways there is to kind of go through the game, and how, you know, your encounter, your experience may be much different than somebody else's. And so those are the things that I am looking forward to. If they can bring all that focus on sandbox and game dynamism to something that looks like that, and, you know, keep the exploration, you know, make that interesting and dense, I think they could have something really, really special. So that's, again, a lot of hypothesis right now, a lot of assumptions, nothing we can prove. But that's where you know, when I was looking at that, that's one of the things that was going through my mind.
Well, I mean, listen, it's great points so far. You know, listen, the one thing you talk about was exploration. Now, for Avowed, there were a lot of people before playing the game. When they heard the words, it's not open world, it's an open hub, people were like, oh, my gameplay is going to be small. And it turns out that's not, in fact, the case. I am 110 hours in. I enjoyed it so much, and my impatience of waiting for the new game plus, which hopefully comes soon. I reloaded a save from level 20 when I had maxed out to level 30, and I started, you know, playing a different way. Now I'm starting to lie. Now I'm starting to be a bit of a heel because I'm missing those achievements. I got to get those achievements. You lie a certain amount of times. You know, you take bribes. You take money, things of that nature. These are achievement folks. I'm achievement whore, so I got to go for it. But Fable, I mean, again, it's super early. It's hard to equate exactly what we saw regarding the size of a particular map.
Right.
But if you go back to older Fables, they did suggest that they're going to use what the past was and just make it better. At least that's what it seemed like to me.
And that would be music to my ears, you know, because again, where I'm at, and maybe this is just part of my age, is I don't need a game to get wider. I think that the dense, having it be more interesting moment to moment, have it be denser, have more things to do in smaller spaces, have more choices, more variance in the ways you play through it. That is a really interesting to me. And again, like going through Avowed, you start thinking about, well, what if they bring some of this sort of, you know, the variance in just your action? What if they were able to bring that over to Fable? And that was initially what they were trying to do, right? And also one of the core pieces, one of the core aspects of the original was that choice between light and darkness. So when they're saying that, Boom, I really hope they you know, go through with that aspect, because I think those choices is what really gets you engaged with, you know, what people are saying and what's actually happening, because you're starting to feel like you impact your surroundings a lot more.
You know, it's very interesting. And again, I hate to keep doing the, you know, one-to-ones with Avowed versus Fable, because we know what Avowed is. We kind of know what Fable is going to be, but there's a lot of context that's absent. So it's hard. But the one thing I will say, you know, you mentioned Consequence. Now, Consequence played a massive part of the original Fables, even based on how your character looked and was seen by other characters, NPCs in the in the world. You do get a lot of that of Avowed, and a lot of people, you know, listen, folks, I'm going to tell you this right now: you redline this game because you're trying to win a point or just be done with it. Don't do that, because some of your decisions that you made on the first 3 hours of the game are going to, in fact, come back to you on the ass end of the game. I'm telling you, it really, it's typical of Obsidian. But getting back to Playground Games, listen, this is a company that we know that has only been known as a racing developer, right? And it's amazing what they've delivered so far. I do want to get into the delay, but we'll come back around to that. Kay Asante, I want to get your thoughts. We haven't had a chance to talk about what was done yesterday between Tina Amini and Craig Duncan. Your thoughts on what you saw regarding the visuals? That, I mean, it was a feast for the eyes, at least for me. I want to get your thoughts.
No, I completely agree. I've actually, as you guys have been chatting, I have multiple windows on my PC, so I've been watching it and scrubbing through the footage and literally watching all of the pre-alpha footage that they've been showing off while you guys have been chatting. And whoever says that this is not actual gameplay needs to have their eyes checked. It's absolutely gameplay. You could even see some of the degradation in quality a little bit because it's gameplay, right? Even though let's be absolutely clear, even as it's gameplay, it's still very high quality. You can definitely see that it's 100% someone moving the controller. It just so happens that there's no HUD there. But yeah, this is really, really exciting to me. I'm not sure most folks know. A huge Fable fan. I've played all three of them. I actually played the version that nobody else got to play. I played the isometric one, the three versus one. I was part of the beta program.
Me too. I played that as well. It was very
literally
very
the day they canceled that thing. I was playing it when I heard they were canceling it, and it was live being played while it was being canceled. It looked beautiful. This looks better, like by far, right? That and so the last attempt at Fable, it looked like they went very regal and the word fables, right? You're talking about people in very highbrow looking clothing and all that. Now it looks like they're going absolutely real, but still maturing the franchise and the story a little bit. So as with what OBM was extrapolating, I can go similarly in that vein. If them us extrapolating what they've done to the visuals is any indication, and of course they allowed you to kick a chicken, so hey, it is what it is. If they've matured that visual element to a place where it still reminds you of Fable, but it's far more mature and has a far more realistic tinge to it, I imagine everything you guys are describing now is also fair game, as in what your actions do to the world, what your actions do to yourself, how it all manifests in that way, right? So it is what it is. Like I'm very, very, very excited to see how all of that manifests, because it clearly looks like the people who took on the challenge of picking up the mantle know very well what makes the original stuff great, what made the original stuff great, why people insisted on wanting to have this franchise back. What are the minimum requirements? What we've seen from it so far has been pretty bold, honestly, because some people could easily start criticizing it because the design elements and the visual design is a far removed from what people are used to in the Fable world, right? Yes, it's true that it was a 360 game, but even then, back in 360 world, there were far more realistic looking games than what Fable was doing. Fable was purposely being cartoony at that time, right? Very, very cartoony, puppet-like characters until you grew up, and even then, you had very caricature-like features. So this is very much a departure from that, and it looks really awesome. Like I have to say, I'm super excited to see them thread this needle. I want to see them land this plane. I want to see them, be able to prove that hey, they made great car games, but that's not all they can do. And it looks like by and large we're heading in that direction. So yeah, man, I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, and I think that I was going to say, like, because you brought up something that I really wasn't thinking about, but yeah, they do make car games, and this is a far this does seem like far removed from that. But don't forget that when they started up this team, like they really went out and brought in different new people. They basically were hiring for a new team. This is a studio that has shown great leadership over its history, and and I would think is when they jumped in with Forza Horizon, they hit the ground running with that thing, until now it's just on autopilot. But like that, this is a studio. I think a lot of times when it comes to any sort of team, the leadership and just understanding who you need to bring in to complete the task, and also the fact that they have IDOS kind of helping them work on things. IDOS has a history with Deus Ex and things like that. That's a
Tomb Raider.
sandboxing type of game. Yeah, so they have they have a lot of help, that a lot of like institutional knowledge. So it's not like you just have a bunch of guys that were just doing card games and like suddenly like, how do we do this? Like, you bring in the experts in those genres, and you've seen that across all their studios. I think it's been sort of under the radar, but a lot of them have brought in some top end talent, that have a lot of experience in the industry to lead some of these newer projects. So just kind of call that out.
No, I mean, first of all, great points of view. A lot of people don't realize exactly the talent that they poached. They found people on the Sony side, right? They poached from people that made The Last of Us, people that made God of War, people that made Horizon Zero Dawn. They picked up a couple of people that helped with the last Metal Gear Solid 5. So they were going out, getting the talent they needed. And folks, I want you to take a time machine. Walk with me on this, folks. You remember when I first started the Xbox Factor podcast, I was working with the Welsh Gamer, who actually comes out every now and again. He was at, any of the big shows, you can expect him to show up. And there, of course, there's been a lot of people that have joined me since. And one of the things that we specifically were asking for all the way back when, I want to say maybe 5-6 years ago, we said what we wanted was this game to look like The Witcher and to still have its sensibilities for its British humor. We wanted some adult theme conversation and actions, and it looks like our wish actually has been delivered. Again, it's a small
one better.
Please.
I would say if you look at it graphically, it looks more like The Witcher 4 than any of the other Witchers. So
indeed, sir. Yes,
it really does. It looks like it's like super realistic Witcher, not like any other Witchers before it.
I mean, that's a fantastic point. And that's going to be another one that's coming out. I don't know if it's going to come out for this generation or next, because, obviously they take their time. They like to cook, CD Projekt Red. But they did also, to make mention of getting, poaching developers or development houses, they got quite a few people from CD Projekt Red to join Playground Games, and that are now working on this new iteration of Fable, which looks to be, look, folks, maybe you're going to call me a bot for saying this. I already think, just based on what we saw, it's hard to deny that's going to be a Game of the Year contender. Again, things have to work out, but that's pre-alpha footage. You understand that? That's pre-alpha. I know, and again, there's, the grifters community, they are always going to grift. So they were trying to downplay what we saw. Folks, go watch it. Go watch it on YouTube where you can get it running in 4K. Your eyeballs are going to fall out your head. It was amazing. But I do want to really kind of just bring this back around to One Bad Mother regarding the delay. And I know a lot of people, look, we all kind of thought this, right? Like even when it was announced, we were like, wow, you start counting on your fingers how many games are coming out in the first half of the year. We know Xbox is going to be hitting in the second half of the year. You got Ninja Gaiden 4, right? You have a new Call of Duty. There are rumors and thoughts and theories to why this delay opens the door for Gears of War E-Day. We'll see if that happens. There's a couple, Clockwork Revolution could be one of those other games that quietly just get announced. Hey, here, the June showcase. Here's gameplay. Oh, by the way, it's coming out in September. And it blows everybody's mind, right? So there's a lot going on that we don't know about second half of 2025. So this delay gets announced. And I'm going to be honest with you. Most of the circles that I run in were unbelievably unfazed by this. Most people thought this was going to happen. But when Craig Duncan comes out and says, listen, we want to give the team wants more time. And All I have to do is equate that statement to what happened with Avowed. Do you remember the first time we saw Avowed? They showed it off, how stiff the combat looked, how like none of the hits felt like they had oomph to any of the stuff they were doing. They get that delay. They allow the studio to cook. You get a 30, you get a 60. Oh, and you get an optimized 40 with all the bells and whistles if you have a TV that does 120 hertz like I do. So you get the best of both worlds. You get frames, you get ray tracing, you get VRR, and you have a game that could be at the end of the year in the conversation for game of the year. I say let them cook. And again, we don't know how much cooking they're going to do because there was no official release month. Was this September or December? But if they do follow suit, and it was going to happen to fall in that November-December realm, and they give them that delay, maybe we get Fable in the same time frame of what we got Avowed. What are your thoughts on the delay, man?
Yeah, well, when it comes to delays, I don't think I've flinched one time this generation for any game I've been looking forward to when they've been announced for delays. I supported it with Halo. I wish Halo had a longer delay. I supported it with Starfield, supported it with Avowed. Generally, this generation, they got off to a slow start when it comes to developers and their tools and things like that. We know the pandemic, like that's in the rear view mirror, like to most of us in terms of our thoughts, but really a lot of the things that are coming out the next couple years were impacted at some point in time because of that, right? Everything from, hiring new people to motion capture, things like that. And so one of the things that we're starting to see over the last just very recent past here this last year is some tools across the board are starting to mature a bit more. Unreal Engine 5 is just now coming into it. I know they're not using that. I know they're using something else, but as an example, somebody who I know who develops on Unreal, has been doing it for a couple of decades, was telling me that it's really only been like super recently they finally got the stuff that they were promised back in 2020, when it comes to some of the things that it's supposed to be able to do. So you got to think about some of that stuff. And we know that they went back and forth on engines. They're taking Forza Tech into a different direction. And so whenever you're doing something like you're reimagining a brand new IP, you're really trying to evolve the technology, the engine it's going to be running on. You're trying new things. It's an ambitious game. It's just one of those things where take all the time in the world. I honestly don't care whether this comes out in February or next December. At this point in time, I get like in 2002 when they delayed Starfield, that felt a little bit different for a lot of people because they didn't have a lot. But these days, there's like, I don't know how you even find time these days. Like I don't know about everybody else in the chat. I actually look forward to delays because it's like, at least I don't have to skip something else that I'm really looking forward to. If you're on Game Pass alone, we already seen what it's been in the last few months, and then you got Doom and South of Midnight and Ninja Gaiden and probably an Oblivion remake and probably a few things we don't know about. Like there's just so much in the pipeline, and that's not including the third party and the fact that GTA might be out this year. So I know some of the conversation is around, well, why has it been delayed? For me, it doesn't even matter. The fact that it is delayed is going to help it gain some polish. It's going to allow the developers to refine things. And yeah, every time we did see Avowed and they were giving us real time sort of glimpses into where that game was, it felt like it was improving. And something that that I've heard is that, like with Microsoft, a lot of their studios have finally started to learn how to collaborate more in terms of supporting each other and things like that. So this, that's a more recent type of, that's a more recent development because initially they're all kind of scuffling, right? They're all trying to let the dust settle and figure out how to get the train back on track. But now that they do got things rolling, a lot of these studios are able to kind of jump in there and help out. They share tech. So I feel like anytime something is like pushed back a year, it's just going to be technically better in a lot of different ways.
Yep.
And something like Fable, this is one of the few like IPs that could become a massive pillar, right? There's not a whole lot of, and this is across the industry. I'm not even just talking about like Microsoft publishing. Across the entire industry, if you talk about AAA IPs, there's not that many games that are super ambitious, that are not just iterative sequels
Yes.
this generation. And the launching an IP that's been dormant for a long time, that's basically reimagined, is a huge risk. It's a huge financial risk. And these are the types of things that really got to hit big if you want to see another one, right? And there's just so to and also I would say that if any massive IP, and it doesn't matter if it's by Microsoft, Sony, EA, Take-Two, if any big IP comes out, especially if it's new or reimagined, comes out and it hits, it kind of lifts all boats, right? It does
Yes.
re-energize the industry. And so I again, across the board, I don't care which IP it is. If it's if it's something like this has an opportunity to make a splash, and it can go in either direction. It can either lift all boats, or it can tell every investor, shoot, we shouldn't be doing things like that anymore, right? So I think it's too big to miss, and so delaying it, making sure you have a good runway outside of GTA. And I know that this is probably not just for that; it's for other technical reasons. But even with that in mind, like just giving it the proper runway, finding the proper launch window, making sure you got all your I's dotted and T's crossed, and that this is just ready. It's the best that it's going to be, I think, is really vital for them. And if it did miss, the flip side of that is could be pretty bad across the board for their studios, and for even outside of that. So yeah, long story short, this is I'm cool with the delay, and I'm not going to be wanting the end of this year. In fact, it's a relief, and especially if GTA ends up coming out this year, I think we're going to have more than enough to eat, at the buffet, that we can afford to see this get some more time.
Listen, I agree. I know there's a lot of talk going back and forth about GTA, whether it's going to launch, whether it's November, December. Is it going to make the Game Awards? Is it even going to make 2025? The only people that know that are Rockstar. Now, we had heard a couple of months ago that they missed a couple of deadlines. It is Rockstar. They have been working on this game for, I want to say, about a decade. Yeah, it's been that long. You got to remember, Grand Theft Auto 5 came out in 2013. And people are still buying it, and we're in 2025. So there you go. But I put it this way: it doesn't matter what game, you don't want to be in that behemoth's way. You just don't.
Nope.
Whether you're a new IP, an old IP, a storied, beloved IP, everybody wants to get the F out of the way of the behemoth. And you know what? We'll see what happens. Again, you can take it at my word, or you can't. I have heard, folks, from two different sources that the delay itself has absolutely nothing to do with a PlayStation 5 port. I know that there is a grifting community with a certain amount of grifters that are content creators that on this show remain nameless, that will lead you to believe that in fact is the case. I'm here to tell you from two sources that I trust, that is not the case. I don't even know if this is. I don't. Again, I can't say whether it's going to be day and date on PlayStation 5 and Xbox, but that is not why this delay happened. This delay happened to give the team more time. They want to do some things, and again, just let them cook. This is their first big RPG. It's their first big game that's not a Forza Horizon, which potentially could come out next year, right? That we're all expecting some sort of announcement this June for Forza Horizon 6 in Japan, which is where I really wanted to go. But again, whether you believe me or you don't, I heard from two sources in the last 24 hours that a delay for PlayStation 5 dev time is not what it's about. So take that to the bank. Asante, let's bring you in on, and let's talk the delay, because you and I are both of the same mind, where we come to a point where we've seen games get delayed because they are in turmoil. There are struggles at the studio, whether that be with personnel, leadership, decisions being made from the top or the bottom, engines being changed. That's not what is happening here. They are on track. The graphics and what we saw in regards to gameplay prove as such. This is going to be a couple of months delay out of 2025, which could have been September, October, November, or December, into what could be, and again, this is a big hypothetical, first quarter of 2026. And if it is 3 or 4 months or even 5 months, that allows the team to really dig their heels into the ground and deliver what could be one of the best releases in Xbox history. Let's get your thoughts on it, man.
So for me, that whole delayed game adage is applicable here, right? So
Yep.
yeah, we're not even gonna spend too much time on that. If it released when they expected it to release and it looks bad, or it's buggy or something like that, you'll never be able to hear it ever again, right? You'll never hear the end of it. That'll basically tar and feather it. That'll stain its image for the life of the game. Even if it eventually becomes great, people will always remember it, that negative initial take. So I when it comes to that, I'm 100% behind you on that. Like, delay the game, behind both of you. Delay the game, let the game come out when they are ready to release it. Honestly, and I don't think this is what's happening. Let me be clear. I don't think it, like you, Boom. I know, like I can, we talk to people. It's not being delayed because of PlayStation. That's not why. But that's neither here nor there. I wish this game was complete, 100% complete, and that the delay was strategic, just to have it on the shelf for when they need it, because they need to get to that level of shrewd strategic move making anyway, right? So whether it's because it needs to get out of the way of some other banger, or it's because the team needs more time, when it comes out, when it's in your face, it will hit you the best way they possibly want it to, right? And until then, the reason why I'm okay with it is because, as you guys have already pointed out, they are like firing on all cylinders as of right now, right? We don't have enough time in the damn day for all of the potential games that are coming out. Will you believe me when I tell you that I have not finished? I played, but I have not finished Indiana Jones yet, because Avowed has taken my time away.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? Like we don't need them all to combine on top of each other right now, because it's just too much. The backlog grows and becomes even more murderous. It's ridiculous, right? So as long as you're one of us, and it's all about being above board and about having your games and enjoying your games when they're released, there's nothing to be concerned about, right? And those with the false narratives about, they're doing this or they're doing that, or they're doing it because of X reason or Y reason, all that is just to fill dead air, because they have no games, and maybe they should be picking up a controller of their choice and playing some games, and is not happening right now. So they're trying to fill some dead air. But those of us that have known for time and memoriam, you always wait until the game releases. You never want that game to release until it's ready, because if it does release before it's ready, you get your Cyberpunks, right? You get your great game that gets tarnished by a bad initial launch, and you never want that to be the case, right? And of course, based on what you've seen, what we've all seen, Boom, this game is shaping up to be quite something when it comes out. So even if that is 2028, I don't care. I will wait. When it comes out, I will see it with my own two eyes, and I'll be happy to have seen it, and it'll be the vision that they have envisioned. So I don't think this is a problem at all.
No, because what I was going to say is that why it's not a problem for the delay itself is, at last check, I'm not Dr. Octavius, right? I don't have, 6 arms. So I can only play one game at a time. And there are certain games that come out that are no life games, like Call of Duty, which I'm
Mhm.
playing, right? Which I'm very much enjoying and getting into the winner circle like the old man should, right? Representing the gray beards. Hashtag gray beards in the chat. But I'm also 110 hours into a single player game that I've already beaten that I love so much that all I want to do is go back in and play and start playing again, right?
Yeah.
But with that said, gentlemen, you have South of Midnight happening in April. You have 33 Expedition 33 bookending the month. One opens, one closes. Then you have May, which of course is going to be Doom, which we're going to get into the second half of the show. But in between, from May to where we currently are now, you have Adamfall. You have the something Kazan coming out soon. I mean,
Mhm.
on top of something like Balatro getting into Game Pass, which I'm now going to get into. Now I have to try it. It's in Game Pass. I have there's no reason for it, right? And the deck is stacked, ladies and gentlemen. And again, someone had said earlier, "Hey, boom! Don't forget about the Outer Worlds." Yeah, that's going to be bookended by the end of the year. So, do you really want Fable, on top of Outer Worlds, or Outer Worlds on top of Fable? No, you don't. You want to give these things some room to breathe. And there's still, again, whether you take him on his word or you don't, Matt Booty literally said, we have things that are coming out this year that we haven't even announced yet. What are
Mhm.
those things? Clockwork Revolution for me jumps right off the page. Yes, it was announced, but we have not heard a thing since we saw it 2 years ago, which, by the way, it looked done then. But One Bad Mother, before we move on to the Doom topic, let's get your final thoughts on this.
Yeah, no, just something I wanted to throw out there because now that it's delayed and now that we're going to get further and further from the pivot of the what do you call it, Project Latitude, there's a good chance that this will be. I mean, this is probably going to be on the competing platform at some point, and if it is on day one, I guess I'm going to just throw out the unpopular opinion, and boom, I don't know if this gets me canceled in your chat, but I honestly think whatever is the best thing for this in terms of whatever goals they have. I mean, if it is a drive Game Pass, maybe they don't go day one, but if they do go day one because that's the best thing, and they need to have those sales because it's expensive and they want the mind share, and they don't want people reviewing it that aren't get to play with their favorite controller, and all the things that come with the exclusives, right? Like there's a lot of advantages of being everywhere on day one. I you know I think it's like time for people to kind of move away from really giving. I get why people gave a damn about it, but at this point, it's like either you kind of accept it or you don't. Ultimately, one of the biggest challenges that every game is going to have, and this is not a Microsoft problem, it's not a Sony problem, it's not a Nintendo problem, it's an everybody problem, is that when a lot of these companies were investing during the pandemic, that was now we're looking at what 5 years ago is when they were investing, and these things are coming due. The games take 5, 6, 7 years to come out, so you're going to start to see a lot of things that were greenlit when everybody was losing their minds and they were just making it rain in the gaming industry.
Yep.
And they were doing that based on every report because they thought that the industry would continue to grow beyond the pandemic. Some people even thought it was going to even accelerate even faster than it did during there. They thought the momentum would not stop in gaming, and that's one of the reasons why everybody was buying everybody. And now you're seeing cuts in all this. You're seeing the flip side of that, right? Where they realize that they overinvested. And so what's going to happen though the next couple of years, the competition is going to be brutal, and that's something that Matt Piscatella was saying in his interview with Kind of Funny.
Yep. Great interview.
The game, yeah, it was a great interview, and for anybody that hasn't heard it, that really does care about all this other stuff other than just the games, I would definitely suggest they listen to it. One of the things that you'll come away with is the cost of the development went sky high, but the demand did not increase with that like people thought it was going to. So there's going to be probably, and I'm just saying this is common sense business 101, is there's going to be a lot of failures over the next couple of years, and we're already seeing the carnage. And so I think with any developer, whatever it takes to put themselves in a better position, like whether it's Sony going to PC or if it's, I know Nintendo sells cardboard boxes for $1 million, so they don't have to worry. But everybody else, let's just say everybody else, has to pull a new lever to try to figure out how to stay healthy. Like pull those levers right now, right? And ultimately, like if this was day one across the board, it has a far greater chance that you'll see it again and that you'll continue to get as much content, day one. For anybody who's on Game Pass, you won't see projects cut behind the scenes and things like that because they're missing goals. So if it was because, my point is if it was because of that, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I know I'm probably in the minority, but I just think that whatever right now, it's the biggest competition or the biggest concern is really it really has to do with the IPs. It has to do with the studios, and I think a lot of them are in tenuous places. So if they can figure out if these companies can figure out other ways to make sure that they have a better shot of kind of coming out of this on the other side, I'm all for it.
Well, I mean, listen, all you got to do is look what happened yesterday. Monolith Studios, after 30 years, they celebrated their 30th anniversary last year, folks. That was, they made a lot of really great games. They made Mad Max. They made the Lord of the Rings games. They created the Nemesis system, which is one of the best new systems that no one is using. Well, no one's going to use it because the studio was closed. Look what's happening with Tencent. You know how many studios are going to close because they're trying to, close, recoup their coffers? A lot of studios. It could be upwards of 12 studio closures that were depending on money from Tencent to stay afloat, and they're just not going to do it. What happens to all these people? They're humans that make these games.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're going to see, listen, what Microsoft is doing, what Xbox is doing with putting their first-party games, I would have never guessed it in 100 guesses 10 years ago. We are in a different world. Do I like it? No, I don't like it, but that's the business reality. How soon Sony gets there, I don't know necessarily if it's going to be to Xbox. They're definitely doing day and date with PC. That has to be like something they have to go for because of the success of Helldivers 2. I honestly been saying this for weeks. I think Ghost of Yotai is the first one. It makes sense. It's going to be a big seller, but we will definitely see. Folks, we're going to get into the second topic of the evening. This one is the big Doom one. Now, like I said in the opening, there were several people in the games community that we all know and love that put up these big write-ups. The one I'm particularly using today is Okami13_. He's a phenomenal content creator himself, but he's also a massive creator for dropping these big news bombs as he finds them out. Now, the guy is obviously connected. Well, I saw the same write-up come the way of Clobriel, who's another phenomenal member of the community. Hazardor Gaming, Shinobi602 put up a big write-up as well. These are all people that I follow. Most of them follow me. And they're people that you should definitely follow if you're into gaming news. Casante, I'm going to you first here because Okami13 put out this thread. And from what, I mean, we already knew that Doom the Dark Ages had the potential to not only return Doom to its roots, but be one of the most goriest, if it could get any gorier than the last one. This one seems to have taken a real page out of some pop culture things. Why do I say that? Because I'm going to read you the list that comes the way again of Okami13_. And here are the new gameplay details that have been unearthed by several people in the games community. Apparently, it has been influenced by Batman Year One and the Dark Knight comics, which returned Batman to its roots. And of course, this is the Dark Ages, so it does seem like they are returning to where the Doom guy started. It says here that the shield saw itself reacts differently depending on what it's cutting, whether it be flesh, armor, energy shield, or etc. The block button can be held down for a short lock-on effect. We also learned that while locked onto an enemy, you can do a shield bash that charges you forward and closes the distance to that enemy. Let's see. Shield Bash will be your main weapon, your main way of zipping around the battlefield, since there's no double jump or dash in this game. You can also parry with the shield. Game will have accessibility options to adjust the parry windows slash difficulty options. You can also, of course, like Captain America, throw your shield. This will also be used for environmental puzzles like breaking chains. It goes on to say, furthermore, parry recharges melee, melee refills ammo. There are 3 melee weapons: Gauntlet for fast, Flail for medium, and the mace, which of course is going to do massive damage, is incredibly slow. Guns have a more medieval theme to them and less futuristic. Even some of them even though some of them are returning weapons. The levels are the biggest ever in any Doom game and will have a more sandbox feel. And it goes on to say a couple more points, folks. About an hour or so per level is the sweet spot, but completionists can extend this. A typical level will be broken up into acts, such as an interior dungeon area and then more open areas, etc. Finally, it goes on to say that ID Software has wanted to put Atlans, which of course those are the giant mechs, in the game for about 8 years, and they've teased it in previous games. One of the you saw them like collapsed and broken in the last Doom in one of some of the bigger open levels. And lastly, the story will now be at the forefront of the game, a departure from the previous games where it was mostly in just text notes. I mean, Keasante, this sounds like it's going to be amazing. We've seen gameplay. This has everything I could possibly want from Doom, keeping to what we know and love, but giving us so much more. And listen, you're going to be battling what it seemed like to be kaijus, because you're going to get into like a Godzilla-esque type of mech, and you're going to be fighting these things. This could be one of those games that come out and not only steals the zeitgeist of the community, wins Game of the Year 2025. What are your thoughts, man?
So when I saw this game first show off, right, and every trailer subsequently that I've seen, and of course these write-ups as well, I have a very odd thought. So go with me here, okay? Honestly, I think at this point, what is id Tech? What is id going to do after this? Because this is their swan song. Like, it's like they had a nugget of an idea and they've iterated and iterated and iterated and like this trailer is like the culmination of everything they've been building since that original Doom idea first kind of came about. They were like, we can do this, and now we have the technology to do it. And they're literally throwing kitchen sinks at you in the form of Captain America shields. You know what I mean? Like they're mulching like freaking skull matter in order to id as bullets to for the chamber of this thing, right? I feel like this is the id team saying, oh yeah, we are not able to get an award. Watch us. We will throw everything at this, and if you don't want to give us an award, it'll be your problem. It'll be your fault for not doing that, not us not really putting it out there. My question is, what's their next work? Because it's no longer Doom. I think this is their last. This is the magnum opus. I think this is it. This is every bullet in every single gun they have to say, okay, are you no longer entertained? What else can we do to show you that this is actually worthy? I think this is the culmination of it all.
I mean, I mean, what you're saying makes sense, but it's going to be a sad day in hell if there's no more Dooms. I'll say that.
Well, I suspect after this they'll be tired and they'll move on and do something with like rainbows and like flowers.
Well, Curry Cosmos says Quake next, and there's been
there you go. There you go. Absolutely,
they have a new Quake, but
yeah. But you know what I'm saying? I feel like every time they make a good one, it's great. Like so great, and it's like so good that they've been kind of like pigeonholed, right? Like it's like when they make another really good one, it's like it's them. They're doing another good one. You just expect it, and then they move on, right? Rather than be gobsmacked and mouth agape at the amazing graphical fidelity and technical prowess that's being put on display every time, it's almost like they're a victim of their own success. So now they're literally going to shake the tree loose and beat their genius into your eyeballs and say, "Are you entertained?" That's what it looks like to me. Right?
I mean,
what else could they have done at that point?
You're not wrong. I mean, obviously, one thing I did go over that I missed, because again, it's a very stout list, was the platforming that a lot of people did not like has been removed. So there's not going to be. I mean, you're going to be able to get around using the disc saw, and now be able to get you to like higher places, but it's less. It's going to be much less of an issue for the platforming than it was in the last Doom. Which again, I didn't mind it, but it was a lot.
Yeah. Doom was not the place for that level of platforming. It was fun. I enjoyed my time with it. But I understand those who complain that it wasn't really like the best use of the Doom guys' time. I do get that. I really do think that this is them like at the height of their powers, just kind of just showing off at this point. What else can they really do at this point? There's not much else. Well, after this, you know what? As I'm saying this, my brain just said no. There is one more plateau after this. After this, I need to see Master Chief with my Doom guy. That's what I want.
That would be dope. Yeah. I mean, I'd love some sort of Elseworlds story.
Yeah. Because that's the only other plateau they need to hit after this. Like, you got mechs there, you got dragons going. What else do you need to do at this point? You are mulching human skull for bullet matter. Like, what else are we doing?
I mean, that was kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Right?
I don't know. I mean, Master Jazz 09 says Doom is a game-ass video game, and that's what it's supposed to be, and that does not win awards. And you know something? I mean, look, this game, I think this game is going to win awards, even though it's exactly what he said. It seems like they did go back to the drawing board. And like I said, literally from the opening of what I read that Okami put out there was they took for inspiration Batman Year One. And if you've ever read that, first of all, it's a great read if you are a fan of Batman. It just goes to show you where he is now to where he originally started. It's a tale of two different Batman. You got to remember, he's learning as he's going around beating up criminals. It was very well written. But One Bad Mother, let's get your thoughts on it, because again, it is a bit of a laundry list. I did send it to you. You were able to get a chance to take a look at it.
Yeah.
I honestly, there isn't anything on this list that I was like, yeah, I could live without that. No, I actually, and a lot of the things they're going to be using in this Doom game or Doom: The Dark Ages are tried and true and have not seen the light of day in a minute. But it does seem like the series itself is going to be a little bit more, return to form.
Yeah, well, I think there was one thing that really stood out in that laundry list. I mean, a couple things are, that have already been takeaways. Is number one, is that engine. Like, I think we need to see this engine in probably more places. We did get a little clip of
Halo potentially.
I don't think they're going to use it in Halo. I think they're going to keep going with
that ship unfortunately has sailed.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed, unfortunately. But this engine just looks really cool, and we don't know how it would feel with everything. But I would love to see new IPs or new reimagined IPs, and even Quake, which is the one everybody assumes would be cool to kind of see. But yeah, that engine really stands out. But the other things that, like, from when they were showing this at the showcase, the thing that really got me excited about this is somebody. I have beaten the last two, the 2016 and the Doom Eternal and the DLC. One of the issues I had with Doom Eternal, though, for whatever reason, and it could have been just a me problem. Maybe it's a me getting older problem. Man, that game just made me tired. It was one of the sweatiest single player games. I like difficult games, but it wasn't that it was just difficult. It was you couldn't take your eyes off the screen. You couldn't like cough. You couldn't do anything. It had you going constantly. And the only time you did get a slight breather was when you were doing platforming. So it was, it really just kind of, the pacing and everything of it was a lot. What I really like about this is it looks like it is slower and heavier, and it has a little bit more of the, I don't want to say Halo speed, but it's kind of moving in that direction a little bit. It's slowing down a bit. It's heavier. The parry looks freaking awesome. I don't know about other people here, but for some reason you could just throw parry mechanic in a game. A really good parry mechanic it will make a game worth playing alone. And the way that those parries looked in the showcase was the thing it probably excited me the most. But the thing that excited me about the Okami list, and this is something that really didn't stand out, and I don't remember the developers talking about this before. I remember them saying the levels were going to be bigger, which is fine. But what was really interesting is they said they're going to have more of a sandbox feel. And you remember, what I said earlier in the show about like how like a lot of Microsoft Studios, one of their focuses is on the moment-to-moment gameplay, making it more interesting, making it more fun. And I think part of that fun is that dynamism. I am curious about that because that's not really something they've shown us from the trailers. You can't really see that. It looks like a straight up Doom. But if the levels are wider and there's like maybe multiple ways to get through different situations, that would be a new spin on things. And actually, I would, Kay, I agree with you that it looks like they're throwing the kitchen sink at this on the surface, but maybe they're opening the door. They're opening the door to making Doom a little bit more, of a sandbox game, or give it some other elements to make it so there is different ways to get through situations. And it'd be interesting to see kind of how they play with that in some more wide linear levels. So that's the thing that excites me the most. I have always been a sucker for that stuff, going back to my early days on PC before I would switch back to Xbox consoles in 2001. I was a fan of the immersive sims. I was a fan of and that's one of the reasons I liked Halo so much, or actually loved Halo so much at the beginning, was that it had, there was different ways you could approach situations, or, you had to retry an area that was difficult, and you would try different tactics and strategies based off of the layout and the way the enemies were all very different in terms of how you would fight them. And so you take different strategies of how you use the environments, or who you attack first, or what weapons you're going to use. And so if now Doom is bringing that to the table, I am way more excited about it. That's the thing that got me hooked on Indiana Jones. That's the thing I'm liking about it. It doesn't really matter what genre it is. It's what I love about Halo. And I think that if they can pull that off, if that's just not like a, it was a quick mention. So I don't know how far they're going to lean into that, but if it is something they really pull off, that may pull up Doom in my excitement or anticipation for it multiple levels. I like the pacing. Give me some ways different strategic ways to go through things, instead of just being 100 miles an hour, run as fast as you can, grapple onto everything you can, just keep going. Like that's pretty much how I played the last one, when you would get into firefights. And I think that this sounds really interesting on paper.
It absolutely does. I mean, look, I'll say this. Gaming isn't gaming without Doom being a part of it. It's almost the same principle. And I know it's not one-to-one, but the fact that we have not had a new Splinter Cell in 2 generations is just sickening. So the fact that Doom is still around all of these years later, and just reading the list, how they're innovating this old franchise and bringing all of these new things to it, I mean, again, it's just one of those things. We are eating good as gamers. Yes, sure. If you're an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, you got a smorgasbord of stuff, right? Because you don't even have to run to the store to buy it. Even though I bought the collector's edition. Did you see that statue? I was not passing that up. I bought that, even though I'm going to get a chance to review it. So I'm gonna get the game as well. But that did not stop me from going out and buying that collector's edition because my God, that statue looks dope. Negative Zero in the chat. Welcome as always. Nice to see you here. He says, couldn't get into the new Dooms. A beautiful game and runs like a dream, but mindless shooters aren't my jam. I'll give this new one a try though. And you see, I think you're onto something there because if you saw, like, again, in the write-up from Okami, they basically say that they've taken inspiration from two phenomenal DC stories in The Dark Knight as well as Batman Year One. And we have confirmation that the story is going to be moved to the forefront of the game, which most Dooms, at least the last two, the story was somewhat you could follow it a little bit, but it was, it was ancient gods versus the Doom Slayer, and there wasn't really much. So I think that this
I still don't know what happened.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you. I honestly, I know that I shot a lot of people, and I just kept moving. So hopefully that this is better for gamers like Negative Zero, who just doesn't want a mindless shooter.
I think I'm with Negative Zero, and not that not that it was the last one was a bad experience. It was still a good game, but I didn't probably enjoy it as much as some others. But yeah, adding a little bit more layers of depth in how you approach things will take this up take it up a lot with me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's an exciting time for gaming. 2025 is again, we're a couple of days away from the start of March. We're going to be in the third month of the year, which is crazy because I felt like we just celebrated freaking Christmas, and we have a June showcase happening. March should be some sort of a partner preview event. I know Ecstasies was talking about that the other day, and that's standard fare for Xbox. They have their Direct. They just had their terrible indie show with. I mean, my God, I need them to stop working with IGN. The games were super cool, but that IGN presentation was just awful. And it's ID at Xbox. They own that brand. They do themselves no favors. If you can give Tina Amini, let her team work on a produced indie show, you will have an indie level show like the Direct, and then you can have back to back months of great shows because there is going to be the partner show, which normally happens in March. I know it's a little bit off kilter, off subject, because we were talking about Doom, but yeah, that's the next thing on the docket. So I'm very excited for what's going to happen in March, as well as a bunch of games. There's a lot of stuff coming out, but listen, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to do is again, the show is a little shorter because obviously it's a smaller panel. We got to the two topics. I don't want to, rehash stuff we've already discussed. What I do want to do is I want to show you guys and gals the new commercial for the Volare gaming pillow. It is something that I worked with Sean Labrie and my nephew, who's starring in it. Again, it's a partnership that I could have never thought that when we started Double Barrel Gaming, someone would enjoy the content enough to want to work with the brand and then take our brand and put it onto their pillow, which of course is still a bit numbing for us because again, we're a super small channel. So folks, I want you to check it out. I'm previewing it. You guys and gals are the first people to actually see it. I literally just got the final print today. Take a look. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the Valari gaming pillow commercial. If you're wondering what that controller is, that is a one-of-a-kind needler. It's a needler Halo controller that was designed for me via the Xbox Pope, who makes incredible controllers. And it is as awesome in person as you saw on the screen, which is why I wanted to use it for the commercial. Again, folks, if you want to check out the pillow and you are someone that suffers from back pain, please check it out. It does work. It works for me. And you've heard my story. I'm fused L4, L5, S1. I have 6 titanium screws, two titanium rods, and 2 prosthetic discs. And sometimes playing games, especially for a long time, it hurts. And that actually helps me because it keeps your posture straight. Use the code DBG15 at checkout, and you'll save 15% off of your order. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here today. I want to thank everybody. We had almost 600 people watching live across Twitch, YouTube, and YouTube, of course. We'll start first with OBM. Brother, let's sell your brand. Where could people reach out to you, potentially strike up a conversation on social media? And what else do you got going on? I know it's been super busy. I see your rig flashing behind you when your cat's not trying to steal the show.
Yeah, I know. He is he does
a bit of a ham.
He's a bit of a Hollywood. He's a Hollywood cat. But anyways, Boom. Again, thanks for inviting me on the show. Eventually, I will use that rig for other things other than gaming and some of the basics. But I've been in a busy period right now. Potentially moving here in the next few months. So it's just I decided to hold off until I let dust settle in life a little bit. So that stuff will wait. But right now, you can just find me on social media. I'm on Blue Sky and on Twitter, the artist formerly known as Twitter. I'm mother_1 there, and then I'm One Bad Mother, all one word, on Blue Sky. So again, thank you for having me. But find me. I guess I'll be lurking. I'll be lurking, man.
Well, obviously, we folks, if you didn't know, we talk in real life. Yeah, we have each other's cells. We call each other when big things are happening and when we just want to kind of just catch up. So whenever you're free, just shoot me a text and jump on. Definitely appreciate that. Que Asante, kind sir. I know that you are already building Saturday's show. I know we're today is Wednesday. A couple days until the Gaming Circle podcast goes live, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this Saturday morning. Brother, where can people subscribe to your YouTube channel, but more importantly, follow you on social media?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, thank you as usual to everyone who always tunes in on a Wednesday and joins us. One of my favorite parts of the week. It's the hump day. It's the day we get to hang out with Boom and chat games. Appreciate all those who always continue to be here and show support. As for me, Game Circle podcast this Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's some interesting things afoot in the next, I'd say, month or two. There'll be some very interesting interviews and things I suspect will be there. So I would say Xbox fans, stay tuned. Some very, really cool stuff happening that we're working on in the background. So come check us out. TKO Sante on all the places we communicate, both on Blue Sky and on the website formerly known as Twitter. I will not call it X. Screw that.
Yeah.
You follow me, I'll follow you back, and when we go live, you'll be able to check us out. But yeah, we have some interesting things going on. The wind is at our back. We're catching some good wind, and we're using that to bring to you some very cool and interesting content that we hope you will enjoy. So yeah, come check us out. We appreciate you guys come to check out the content. Thank you guys so much.
Yes, and GDC, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
GDC is happening. Keep your eyes peeled for GDC, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're going to get something. I don't know for sure. I just feel it in my bones. So we'll see. GDC is around the corner, and who knows? Again, it's Xbox is in it to win it, and listen, it is what it is. But that is going to do it for us this evening. A big thank you to nearly 600 plus people watching live. I am thrilled to have everyone here. I remember there were days where we had 25 people in the chat, and we have now ballooned into having sometimes, like yesterday, we were north of 1,000 people watching live, which is freaking crazy when you consider the size of the channel. I know people are like, oh, Boom, your channel's big. I appreciate that, but when you consider the Colt Eastwoods were 100K plus, when you consider Randall Thor 100K plus, when you consider some of the other ones, we are relatively small, and we appreciate every new sub, every view. Even if you give us a thumbs down, it's engagement. We hope that you don't give us a thumb down, but if you do, it's for reasons, right? It's fine. But of course, I want to thank everybody once again for being here. And I'm going to close out the show with something, ladies and gentlemen, that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. To live by those rules, son, I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick and Friends.